Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're joining me because we're going to dive into something literally mind-bending. What if I told you that crops are actually talking? And for the very first time in human history, we finally have the tools to listen to them. Seriously, we're looking at a total transformation in agriculture right now, where completely silent fields are suddenly speaking volumes, all through data.
So think about this for a second. How do you actually know when a plant is thirsty? Well, historically, you just wait, right? Wait until the leaves started to droop or turn brown. But by then, the plant is already suffering. Today, though, a modern farm can literally detect a thirsty plant before its leaves even begin to wilt. No joke, it can pinpoint disease stress way before the human eye can catch even the slightest discoloration. We're talking about capturing microscopic biological changes in real time, all while the crops just keep silently growing under the sun.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to start with the new era, then meet the smart sensors, look at precision over averages, talk about the human element, and finally wrap up with a connected future.
All right, Section 1, the new era, leaving human instinct behind. For thousands of years, farming was a completely tactile, hands-on profession, entirely based on observation and experience. Think about traditional farming. It relied heavily on human instinct. Farmers were out there watching the clouds, touching the dirt with their bare hands, observing the leaves. And to be totally fair, a lot of experienced growers can still spot subtle problems way before a computer does. But modern agriculture is facing entirely new challenges. Farms are getting massive, weather patterns are completely unpredictable, water is incredibly limited, and production demands are just off the charts. Because of this sheer scale, walking every single inch of a massive modern farm every day, it's just impossible. And when you can't see the whole farm, tiny little issues can spread totally unnoticed and quickly turn into absolute disasters. Human instinct alone just doesn't cut it at scale anymore.
Which brings us right to Section 2, meet the smart sensors. We're going to see how we're actually listening to the crops using tiny devices quietly collecting information.
Now, what's really interesting here is how farms are literally operating as living, breathing digital networks. Putting devices in a field sounds kind of simple, right? But the reality is amazingly advanced. Take soil sensors. They don't just check the surface, they measure moisture levels at multiple depths way underground, right down in the root zone. Then you've got weather stations continuously tracking everything from humidity and rainfall to wind speed and solar radiation. Leaf sensors are out there physically detecting the plant's stress. Water flow meters monitor exactly what the irrigation systems are doing, and nutrient sensors are tracking chemical changes happening right there inside the dirt. And the best part? All this data streams directly into software, instantly pinging alerts to a farmer's phone, even if they're miles away.
But it goes even deeper than that. When plants get stressed, whether that's from heat, a drought, or disease, these tiny, microscopic biological changes happen inside them long before any severe symptoms pop up. Advanced imaging catches these shifts. Thermal sensors can literally identify minute temperature changes linked to water stress. Multispectral imaging, that reveals abnormal reflectance patterns from unhealthy plants that our eyes just cannot perceive. This early warning is an absolute game changer. Instead of reacting after the crop starts to die, farmers can step in proactively, using smaller, much cheaper interventions before any real damage is done.
And that proactive approach brings us perfectly to Section 3, precision over averages. Managing crops zone by zone.
So here's the crucial point. Precision agriculture means managing crops zone by zone based on actual conditions, rather than treating the entire field exactly the same. And why is that so important? Because, well, no field is perfectly uniform. One little area might naturally hold on to a lot more water. Another spot right down the road might lack nutrients or get hit by pests first. Smart sensors reveal these hidden differences, so farmers can drop their resources precisely where they are needed most.
This right here is a massive paradigm shift. For basically all of human history, farming was all about averages. Average rainfall, average fertilizer, average field conditions. But sensors are showing us that fields are dynamic living systems. They're changing hour by hour, meter by meter. By shifting away from those historical averages and looking at dynamic root zone data, farmers are hitting insane levels of efficiency. We're talking less wasted fertilizer, better irrigation timing, and a huge drop in environmental impact. Some farms are literally slashing their water use while actually growing more food, simply because they're reacting to what the crop actually needs instead of just guessing.
Now, before we get completely swept up in all of this high-tech excitement, let's look at Section 4, the human element, the reality of the tech.
Actually, let's just abruptly pause here for a second. The limitations. There is this huge misconception out there that all these sensors are entirely replacing human farming knowledge, and that is just completely false.
We have to talk about the real-world barriers here. Bad calibration? That creates bad data. If you accidentally stick a sensor in the wrong place, you get wildly misleading results. Weak internet connectivity, which, if you've ever been out in a rural area, you know is a massive headache, can just completely knock out your monitoring. Plus, collecting mountains of data means absolutely nothing if a human can't interpret it. And let's not forget, the high cost of all this gear can be a crushing burden for smaller farms. So while technology gives us amazing visibility, human judgment is still absolutely crucial. Knowing the history of the field, understanding the local weather quirks, software just can't replace that. It's a partnership between humans and machines, not a replacement.
Okay, moving on to our final section, Section 5, a connected future. Let's zoom out and look at how we adapt to a changing world.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how hyper-connected agriculture is becoming. Imagine this seamless loop. A sensor detects moisture stress in one specific spot. Instantly, the software analyzes that data and triggers the automated irrigation system for just that exact area. A little later, a drone flies overhead to double-check that the plant is recovering. It's wild. What used to take days of walking around and manual labor can now happen almost instantly.
But why does all this hyper-efficiency actually matter on a global scale? Well, look around. We're facing hotter temperatures, wildly unpredictable rainfall, extreme weather events, and serious water scarcity. These are massive climate challenges, and they are literally forcing agriculture to become more efficient than at any other point in human history. These smart systems, they aren't just a neat little trick to boost profits anymore. They are essential tools helping farms adapt to a rapidly changing world.
Which really brings us to the core message of this whole explainer. Technology itself is not the goal. Healthy crops are the goal. Sustainable farming is the goal. Food security is the goal. Sensors are really just tools. They help farmers understand the invisible processes that are already happening out there in the dirt. Because at the end of the day, beneath every successful farm is this constant, ongoing conversation between the soil, water, sunlight, microbes, roots, the weather, and human decisions. Smart sensors don't replace that conversation. They just finally give us the ability to hear it.
So I want to leave you with this one final provocative thought. As climate variability continues to grow worldwide, how will the digital pulse of the field change the future of the food on your plate? It makes you wonder, right? Next time you grab a piece of fruit off the counter, just think about the invisible digital network and the careful human judgment that probably work together to grow it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. If you're as fascinated by this tech as I am, keep digging into it, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.